What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hex Foodies Live. We're on at Telegram, t.me/Hex Foodies. Today, we're going to have Turin, one of our awesome members, teaching us about knives, knife making, knife carrying, knife continuing, cleaning. Two things before we get started. I wanted to bring everybody's attention to our awesome freaking community. Tomorrow night down in Austin, a few of the guys are going to go to, one of the guys has rented out multiple tables at Joe Rogan's stage side events where he's going to be doing like stand-up comedy stuff. So I think it's really cool that this guy came into the Texas chat, said, hey, I've got this many tables. Let's fill those seats. Let's make a presence of Joe Rogan. There'll be photo ops afterwards. Just really freaking awesome. Number 2 news. This is why you come here, right? Richard Hart might be in your backyard. If you see a guy on the street and you're in the United States, you might be looking at Richard Hart. Pretty interesting. I didn't know that so soon I was going to be saying this, and it's pretty interesting that it's right before PulseCon. PulseCon is, I think, the 6th of next month, so like 27 days, something like that. Let's see. There's also he's interested in interviewing with BitBoy. If anybody can press the Lex Friedman issue, that would be wonderful. There's a few people on Twitter who have followings, podcasts. They're getting a hold of Richard. So let's fill Richard's. I know that a lot of people already are, and they might be filling it full of their ego, but let's fill Richard's schedule, his time schedule, full of stuff that he could do to market for us, right? Um, Another thing that's been going on with me is I've been on a magnet kick. I've been placing magnets on people's cars. Um, I've been posting this to Twitter, and just recently I had this idea. Why don't I attack the Jeeps that I see, specifically Jeeps, because Jeeps do this thing where like they duck each other, where like they've got a rubber ducky in their car and they place it on another car and they geek out about it. And it's like a way for Jeep people to flirt with each other. So after witnessing this, I just kept it in my mind. I was first exposed to this like 4 months ago or something. So my idea now is put a duck. I mean, I've already made the graphic. I'll share it with the group. A duck on the graphic and have a link, of course, to buy Hex and learn more about what Hex is. All right. So Turin, I think, is almost ready for us. And then I heard some weird tone and go off in my ears that I'm not really sure I know what that is. Maybe it was over in Telegram. Oh, postcards. T.me/hex postcards was set up by Togash, has been run by the community. I'm now an admin in it because I've been in there so diligently, let's say. And we've now sent out probably 3,000 or 330,000 postcards to residences. Just last night, I saw a new post by a Twitter person, just random Twitter person who received one of these who wanted to complain about it to their other Wall Street authors. So like all of a sudden we dropped a postcard on somebody who had quite a voice in the world, in America, and they then tagged other people who also had voices within America. And so like instantly we were exposed to, gosh, like 500,000 people. And what I'm told by Hex Fan Network, Victor, Hex Fan Network here in Texas, he says that the following of these people is really intelligent and open-minded. So we're actually going to gain quite a bit from this. So those are the things that are on my mind. Besides like our continued evolution with each other, like this might be supposed to be happening. Like this might be in your, like the actions that are happening amongst us. All right, so Turin's waiting in the green room. Let's bring him on, and then Finbear is able to come in later. And then also I've got some clips to interject here and there that I've been collecting off the internet, and they're pretty fun. So like Richard talking about food and stuff, and it's hilarious. So let's see what Turin has to say. What's up, man?
Hey, brother.
How are you?
I'm awesome.
Wonderful.
Little sleep deprived. I stayed up pretty late working on that website the last 2 days. Did you get a chance to look at it yet?
I didn't look at the website.
Is that
the layout? Oh,
I thought it would be a good reference point for us to work from.
Sweet. Okay.
Did you catch it?
Yes, I do have it. And I'm going to put it on my...
It's really freshly built, so there's actually like a little navigation bug in it. Like I said, I just spent the last 2 days cramming it, rushing it together. But it's got a ton of stuff on there.
All right.
Yeah, it's a IPFS hosting. They just gave me a random name, and it's so crazy.
Broadtooth 3545
Yeah,
dot on dot fleek dot
yeah.
co.
Fleek is a really good free website, IPFS hosting site.
Okay.
So it yeah, it's kind
Congratulations.
of
This I mean this looks as though you are in the top 1% of active people in the world.
yeah, that's funny. I have another friend that says that to me all the time. He's
Dude, it is all about just getting something done and getting it out there so that other people can experience it. And then,
yeah,
you start to chew on it more, they chew on it and they get back to you. Maybe they've experienced it. Finbar in the house.
Hey guys.
yeah. I'm an artist. I think first and foremost. So like I can totally overthink things. So I like when I
Totally.
get kind of pushed into putting it out there. It might not be 100%, your best work or 100% authentic, but you got to start somewhere. And that's like with the knives thing too. I've gotten a few people getting going because it's one of those things you just start and experience and get, you learn as you grow, as you go. And so, yeah, you can't, this website was that way. You were kind of, I loved the little push to get something together, and I wanted to make sure there was,
So I am such a loudmouth about that because I'm also a procrastinating artist. I'm also a person that looks at something and realizes that I need to estimate 3 times the amount of time that I think that I could do a good job with it. Zamboni, you are an audio only.
And probably muted.
Who's got the shower in the background?
I don't know. I got a fly attacking me, though.
that-
Sorry, I'm waving like crazy.
That might be me.
The camera doesn't care if you wave. Here we go. I'm gonna hit you with one. That said, "Welcome to the hood, brother Finbar."
That's freaking awesome.
Let's do that again real fast. What do you have for us, Turin?
Well, so I made that site so I could kind of, get my thoughts organized too, to kind of have a presentation and something to work off of and go back and forth from. So there's, I can just briefly describe the pages. Now, occasionally, for some reason, like I said, it's a brand new site. The navigation isn't 100%. So if you hit the back button, it might not find the site because it's a React site. So what you would have to do is just go back to the home page that you're there, and you can just start over if you get stuck. But so Blades is kind of an overview of some different things related to knives in general. The Create tab is actually the forging. Yeah, it's up on the top nav bar. Yeah. And that's the one that's got more, it's mainly based around forging. Stock removal is somewhat similar. Yeah, not all the I made it kind of photo heavy. So there should be more photos loading. That's one I made. Everything on this page is my stuff.
Do you want to walk us through in a intellectual storyboard sort of thing?
Yeah, so I could actually pull it up.
That looks like a bayonet.
It's actually like a sax. It's just short sword. I think the blade's 16 inches. That's the kind of thing I'm really into. It's all harvested material, but I've spent some time going through junk steel, semi-decent steel that people like to use for forging. But that's actually a Harrow spring that I'm almost 100% sure is 1095, which is a really good steel for it's what a lot of commercial blades are made out of. So that was harvested from farm. All the materials on there are repurposed and harvested from either farm implements or actually it's a walnut handle from
That's
downed
beautiful.
walnut branch that I got locally, and so yeah, it's a dark walnut, and then these the guard and the pommel both came off of a channel from another farm implement. Those channels wouldn't are probably not hardenable steel, or not very hardenable. They probably are not, near as good a quality as the blade. So it's, forging from recycled materials is really kind of a hobbyist thing. Like you got to put a lot of time and effort into testing your steels to make sure what you get is what you want. You don't want your knife to bend. You don't want your knife to break. Especially if it's going to be something large like that you're going to put a lot of force behind, because that right there is a pretty good sized chopper and pig sticker.
So how do you go about selecting the steel material brought to you?
Well, if you're really serious, and high carbon steel isn't that expensive in a stock or blank form, and then theoretically or technically you don't even have to forge it. If you get stock that's already the right thickness for the knife you want to make, you can just do it all with saws and grinders, but then you still have to heat treat it. If you order steel, and like I said, it's usually not very expensive for decent hardenable, forging blade steel. It'll usually, depending on where you can get it pre-annealed, so it's already soft and a lot easier to work with, even just hand tools. If you get hardened steel that's already hardened, it's a lot harder to work with. You can anneal it first yourself. So if you take a spring, for instance, like you get a good quality heavy duty truck leaf spring you want to work with, you can anneal it first by heating it up as hot as you can, or to hardening temp, and then putting it in something to cool down as slow and as long as possible. And that'll make it soft and easy to, much more malleable. So you can literally just use pretty, hacksaws and stuff to rough shape it. Saws and files and.
So this is an oven. At first, I thought this was some sort of a press.
That's a forge, a gas forge of a friend of mine has. He's a professional blacksmith, or it's his day job. I'm a hobbyist. It's actually a skill I wanted to have, just kind of in my survival skill set, and I love knives. So something about making it yourself and quenching it, hardening it, there's
Beautiful picture.
it's a spiritual kind of thing. Yeah, it's
Hey, did you ever practice with Play-Doh? That's like I used to practice when I was a kid, because we know this guy who's a 6th generation blacksmith, and man, he takes a piece of flat iron and puts it in the forge, and before you know it, he has like the blade of a knife ready. It's almost like magical. But it looked like it was Play-Doh when I was a kid watching him like forge the knife. It was like mesmerizing when you're really good at like knowing where to hit and how hard the metal just surrenders. I gotta hop off. There's some fuckery going on with the computer, but I'll be right back after I restart this.
Cool, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
see you.
I did actually. It's funny. I think I made my first blade attempt when I was about 10 with solder I was like, oh, look, I can melt this metal and put it into a shape. So I actually cast a blade. I think I copied my Scout knife or something, traced it into a piece of wood, and then carved it out and then poured solder into it. And of course it was worthless, but it was fun anyway. It looked good, but I don't know what I expected. I actually thought, it would be something, but totally worthless.
Let's see. Niraj wants to ask, have you ever tried making Damascus steel knife?
No. It's funny because, and I almost got out. I have one Damascus blade, and I almost got it out to show or take pictures of. And I had issues. I didn't get the right photos on the site that I wanted, I guess because the data center got blown up last night. My Gmail was not working at all. So I had 5 or 6 more photos I was trying to forward to my laptop through email, and no go at all. So there's a few knives, but I have one, and it's like a lot of things with knives, there's personal preference. Some people just love them and some people not so much. I think they're really amazing, and they're great for artistic style. The Damascus layered steel, guys do amazing work with it. I really like it on the accents, actually, and you can do Damascus type things more easily with soft steel. And you can even use copper, do copper cladding and things like that are a lot easier to do, because Damascus, to do right, requires a lot of heat. And generally guys that are doing it well are using machinery, presses and hammers, and because you're laying in the steel and every layer has to forge weld itself together. And if there's any impurities between the layers of steel, they literally just won't hold, and the steel can just flake apart. So I'm interested very much though in I think it's a Japanese originally technique, which is sanmai, which is similar and but a lot easier to do because it's just 3 layers or sometimes 5. But you're taking a soft steel jacket and putting a hard steel blade inside, and then forge welding those 3 layers together. And it's only 3 layers, so it's not as hard to do. You can do it with more, homemade type lower temp forges.
That's Damascus.
Well, sanmai is like just a 3-layer. I like. Oh yeah. I like Damascus. It's very beautiful.
I'm gonna put you solo. We can still hear you, Tarun.
I could go get my little Damascus blade. I've seen some with issues is the other thing too. There's different qualities. You can actually buy blanks very inexpensively if you want to just make knives and play with them. You can start with blanks that just need finishing touches and handles. Usually they're already hardened. But if it's a steel that you can work with, you can get a blank and put it in a forge and change it how you want, and then reheat treat it. There's a lot of different ways to go about making knives, or even just modifying what you have. The main thing to be aware of is your heat treat, and if you're willing to put the time in, if you have a good resource for a lot of, I end up with a lot of springs, and I made quite a few springs.
They're really hard to work with. Like spring steel is like a real mother to beat into submission.
It's a good one. I start friends off who want to learn. I start them off on spring steel because, like I said, I have a bunch of coil springs from larger
vehicles. You should give them something like old railroad nails or something. Make a knife out of that. That's like a cool project.
It's good practice, and ultimately, everything you're going to do is going to be practice. Your first few knives. I don't know. I still use my first knife. The heat treat came out right. It's functional, but the form is wonky. It's not at all what I envisioned, but it got me going. It was also a file. The thing about forging, it's just amazing. Finbear said, the way you have to look at it, like it's kind of like dough, and if you, as long as you have your steel to a proper working temp, it should move fairly easily. Even um, non-high carbon, regular mild steel, they call it, is much easier to work. If you want to just play around, you can build something like this easily, put a piece of rebar in there and start shaping it out, make something functional, hooks, campfire hooks, or all kinds of so practice is good, but it's like anything. You have to weigh how much time you want to put in for what you're going to get back. Like railroad knives.
Have you tried making any tools like hoes or axes or anything like that?
That's actually what I'm most interested in. Axes, especially. I'm a really kind of an axe. Yeah. Well, and that's ultimately the way you should start, is get mild steel and start building all your own tools. Build your own tongs, make your own hammers, make your own drifts, punches. It's
so
a time
perfect practice.
A lot
perfect
of
practice is making your own simple tools.
Yeah, I approach it all from a survivalist aspect, really, like Mad Max almost. Like if I had nothing, no money, no store, but I needed something that was actually functional and gonna work, and it's been a learning curve, of course. But I'm at the point now where I could harvest. I'm confident in what I harvest, what it's going to turn out like. I know I put in there, it says testing. Spark testing is probably one of the biggest things to do to see what kind of steel you're working with, and it's another eye kind of. There's charts you can get really easily if you Google it. Examples of what kind of sparks you're looking for. Like generally, you want. The more sparks, the better. You could spark test a piece of rebar, take a grinder and see what kind of spark it throws, and then, take some other steels and see what they do. And the thing that you have to be worried about is, like with files, the older files were, many of them, like Nicholson files, were just a solid bar of 1095 bar stock that with teeth cut in and heat treated, and so they make great knives. But the newer ones are not the same. They generally have a weaker core, I believe, and are either case hardened or have an extra layer of hardened, just the thin layer of hardened steel. I don't know exactly how it works, but you'll find out those things when you spark test. And then ultimately, if you really want to make something good or something you're going to give to someone, sell to someone, you take a chunk of the steel you want to work with and test it first. You don't, have to make a full-on project, but you just decide what you need to know. Maybe grind bevel into it, an edge, to see how it responds, to possible cracking during heat treat. But you can, if you think your knife's going to need to flex a lot, and you want to really test the temper, you might need a longer piece that you can just heat treat, at about the right thickness, and then test and see if it'll bend, to calibrate. Because guys get really picky. If you really want to find picky blade users, go to the Bushcraft USA forum. There's a guy on there. There's some axe nerds, that get really into it. I mean, it's a whole science, especially. I'm just a hobbyist forging knife maker. I like to forge, but if you want to get beyond like high carbon steel and start working with stainless steels, super steels, things that perform way better than your average, decent, knife, you have to really learn a lot, get some expensive machinery, ovens and whatnot. It gets really tough.
Yeah.
Is this craftfarmer.org or what? craftusa.com? Bushcraftusa.com.
And there's a trade blanket on there. It's a great place to find knives. There's something I didn't touch on that site. Shopping. Shopping for knives is really hard, especially for me or somebody that's looking for something specific, because there's not a lot you can tell by looking at pictures, really. I mean, you can look at a knife that looks giant and it's actually only a 6-inch blade, and it looks like it's a 10-inch blade. You can and vice versa. It's amazing. So until you get the knife in hand, at least for me, it's kind of.
So there should always be a banana for scale in the picture. like the old meme, always.
That's great.
Yes, that short sword. And on the, I call it refurbished page.
So what did you make?
One,
What did you make out of the lawnmower blade that we saw in the forge over here? Okay.
That was actually, that's the first forge I built. It's forced air. I used a hair dryer on a long, because the tube actually gets hot. So you want to get the hair pretty far away, actually. And that was, I think, just the second firing of that forge. I was really just trying to burn off all the paint the first couple times. So I just used, it was actually oak from firewood scraps. It got really hot. Actually works pretty much just as good as all the charcoal. Usually I just use charcoal. If you're in an area where you can find coal easily, that's a lot better than charcoal. But once again, this is kind of like my experiments in, making good tools with the least amount possible. I have friends that, like I said, with nice propane forges, and I really want to do something, or I have a project that needs to be good or done fast.
Is it just me, or are you cutting off?
Yeah, he's cutting out.
Yeah,
but I'm able to understand most of it.
Okay, so mostly it's me.
I'll try and adjust this mic, or I can try with no mic.
Don't unplug anything midstream. Leave everything as it is. Do not mess with anything.
Need you to do a headstand.
That's gonna if you unplug something, that's gonna completely fuck up all your setting, and it's gonna resort to default whatever thing you have connected, and it's gonna be a chore and a half to get you back.
It happens to both of us in very timely manners.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, and especially with my mobile permission settings, I keep everything where I has to ask all the time, and sometimes that really messes things up. So, that was. I think I just grabbed that to see how that blade would react, because lawnmower blades are probably the most tricky. Railroad spikes are all going to behave fairly similar to each other. Vintage files, and springs for the most part. You want to stay away from small car springs. Make sure it's a truck or as big a truck as you can find. But the lawnmower blades have a huge range in material types and the way they're heat treated too. So that was kind of just a test. I thought I might see, but I think, I decided it was better to abandon that pretty quick rather than waste much time on it. So,
in this instance,
would move forward.
Would it just be better if you were to take chunks out of this and then just drill through it and fasten a handle to it, rather than attempting to reform the metal? Instead,
if you were if you wanted to make something quick, and I touch on that on the modifying page, you can cut it while it's called repurpose, actually.
Repurpose.
Oh no. you can take already hardened steel and just change the shape or fashion it into the kind of tool that you want without having to reheat treat it, as long as you keep it cool while you're modifying it. So like with that lawnmower blade, it would be somewhat hard to do because of the angles on the end of the blade. You wouldn't really be able to change those without heating up the blade. So you would have to just cut them off, and then you could use, what's left, especially if you're only going for a, 3 or 4 inch blade with a, similar size handle. You could easily get a couple out of a lawnmower blade, and then you would need to keep a bucket or a cup of water handy to grind a whole bevel in. Like with that hatchet there, it was slow going to make sure I didn't get it hot while I cut off that whole chunk behind the lower part of the blade.
Is that blade is it asymmetrical?
It's no, and that's the funny thing. Carpenter's axes, hatchets, are done a lot of different ways. That old vintage plumb style was they just put a really big divot in where the nail puller is, instead of trying to make it asymmetric back there. So
no, I didn't mean the back. I meant the blade. That did you have like the faces pointing towards the tip of the blade, like symmetrically from both sides? Because to me it looked like it was sort of slanted like a carving axe.
Yeah, there are chisel grinds on hatchets and axes, and then various different degrees to that. But for carving axes, I like a straight chisel grind where there is only a grind on one side, so it's almost totally flat on the other side, maybe only a slight bevel, so that you can really get as close as possible.
Yes, and it bounces off the log. That's exactly what I meant.
Now you've done it. Finbar's gonna draw something.
No, he got me. I put the paper away already.
Yeah, I think on the blades page, there's a picture of the different types of grinds, and there's chisel on that, and convex. And so generally almost all axes or hatchets are going to be convex grind. And some carving axes have flat grinds, where the convex, it's a like a log curve, curved, totally arched point. On a flat grind, it's much more, and this is, like I said, shown on the blades page. There's a diagram. A flat grind has a steep bevel between a line, an angle change between the actual sharpened bevel and then the primary bevel of the blade.
Which should I go to next?
So on this one, and this is a nice quality production. That blade on the top, production Benchmade blade that I really loved, and I had the same issues that some of the bushcraft reviewers had, where they didn't like the guard on the thumb side. Actually, I have it here.
So did you make this hard plastic sandwich on both sides of the metal?
No, those scales were stock, but they're smooth. They didn't have all these divots in them. Those golf ball type divots, I added all that because this is a high quality, high strength handle material. It's I think it's G10 G10 and Micarta are two of the well knowns, and they're just great. They hold up and they take abuse. So this had this same guard that was down here. It had it on the top too, but it made it really hard to choke up on the blade. Especially this is called a finger choil. Sometimes they're called, if they're small, they'd just be a sharpening choil. But when they're big for your finger, they're meant so you can choke up on the blade. But with that guard there, it was really hard to do that. So I just took it off and changed it. I changed the actual whole spine angle a little bit. But it was a Benchmade 119. I really like this. This is kind of a typical size. All around.
What's your knife count? How many of these things are sitting around your house and in your drawers and everything?
This is a sheath I made for it.
That's awesome.
It's funny. I give a lot away. Yeah, it's ambidextrous with a hybrid Kydex lock. So you can put it in both ways. Then you can put a loop for drop down, or put it through here. And then this is an extra little lock for it, just to make sure. But
and how childproof do we need to make these things?
How what?
How childproof do you need to keep the things away from children? Like, what is your experience with exposure to youth?
Hey, I have a question for you guys. What's 70 centimeters tall and just grows shorter by the minute?
Biden.
It's the 1.5-year-old who found the potato peeler.
Oh shit.
We don't have to keep Thorin on full blast. Put us all in there.
My bad.
Hey, I got something for the show and tell, since it feels like we're sort of taking a break. Is it okay? Can I show it?
Yeah. He's got some answers for me though. Go with what was in your head, Turin?
Well, the children thing is a really compounded question, to me. It brings up so many things, but I grew up as a Boy Scout. So I had knives when I was young and learned respect for them.
Okay.
I think I wish everybody carried a little fixed blade knife, but that's all.
I freaking love this.
Keep talking, Turin. He's being a dick.
It's just funny that I don't know. To me, how much times have changed. You definitely, our grandparents would tell us stories about, always having a pocket knife from 7 on or whatever. And nowadays, I don't know. It's just when you're exposed and learn safety from a young age, to tools and weapons, things that can hurt you and hurt you. Your whole perspective change. It's interesting. It's I don't want to. So yeah, well, definitely.
I've got a story relating to this from yesterday. My son was out in the backyard with a knife and some sticks and stuff, like pieces of plank that he gathered from all over the place, and he had a pocket knife design, or like a dagger that he wanted to make, and he was like doing it, and he can use all the tools he dares. That's like the rule. If you dare to use it, you're fine, go ahead. I'm gonna, like, if he wants to learn how to use like a skill saw, I'm gonna show him how to use a skill saw. We haven't got to that point yet, but he can use the drill or whatever, or the saws, or the knives, stuff like that. So yesterday was the day when he cut himself in the thumb, and he cut a piece of his thumbnail off and just the tip of the finger, and he came to show it to me immediately after. Like, he ran to the toilet, gave it a quick wash, took a big dollop of toilet paper, and just came, "Oh, Dad, you need to come and check this out." And then we had like all the emergency stuff done, like we plastered the fuck out of that finger, and the dude's still alive and well. And,
Yeah,
and he's a
I
better
hate to
man
say it,
for
but
it.
yeah, people need to get cut. I mean, it sounds really funny, but yeah, I'm so nervous about kids or anybody using anything dangerous around me. It's really funny, and it's a lot of it's just protective. I just don't want to see people get hurt, even though I know, they
Yeah,
you
but
gotta have to do it because
kids pick up confidence on, like, if you give them too strict borders on what it is they can and can't do, they begin sort of restricting themselves pretty quickly. But if they have the feeling that I'm giving my support is endless, like I always, if they want to try something, if they get a feeling that I'm like, yeah, of course you can do it, let's go and give it a go.
you're giving me
I think
goosebumps.
I
I went to
think that's gonna.
Thailand. Really opened my eyes. I went 4 times, spent quite a bit of time there, and you watch people in the markets handling knives, and then it blew my mind. It's like big knives that they'll use a 6-8 inch butcher knife to peel a pomelo or whatever, and they're doing it all the wrong way. Blade towards themselves, and they're half the time not even looking, talking to their customers or whatever, and in 15-20 seconds they got the whole pomelo skinned perfect. It's like watching a chef with a knife, and and cuts are going to happen, and you kind of just have to get used to it. I guess I'm a little bit of a different story. I have to be. I've been around danger so much and dangerous things that I get complacent way too easy. I'm so used to it. Some major cuts and stitches and are just a regular thing to me. So too much. So like I said, to almost a complacency thing. That's the one issue I see. And that's what I worry about with kids, especially overly confident kids. They think they get cut once. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Well, the next one might be a lot worse. It's so easily,
You're muted, Finbear.
They're overly confident because they haven't had a chance to really injure themselves or use something that's actually scary.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was,
Like I let kids climb trees as high as they dare. I'm never like. I try to see that none of the branches are dead on the way up, but at least we'll know on the way down if something happens.
The only time that I've really hurt myself with a razor, with a blade, is when I was straight edge razoring. One time I just didn't pay attention, and what did I do? I brought one hand up and one hand down at the same time, and I cut 2 fingers, pretty deep, but aloe vera, just straight off the plant, sealed it up.
Imagine if you would have been shaving your nuts when that happened. You're supposed to lift, but you dropped, and who knows what your name would be now?
With a straight razor, yeah,
Straight edge razor.
Then you're, I guess that.
And my dad tells me that like we've got such chin bones that like it doesn't lend itself to straight edge razoring, and I'm just like, Dad, like take some chances, have some fun. Get to know the blade.
Yeah, and then you're like 2 minutes later. Oh my God, Dad, you were right.
I did call him while it's like dripping on the floor, and I'm like, Dad, I think it's okay, but I might need you.
Yeah. So did you see my chainsaw? This is like the fucking bee. This is the bee's knees, man. It's electric.
These knees,
So
I
this
love
is
it.
like, and it's strong like a motherfucker. Like it doesn't run out of juice, like in a hurry. Like you can go pretty balls deep with this. But you click this on, then you go like this, and
Hey,
awesome.
get that thing away from your mic next time you turn it on.
Was it loud?
It is loud when you get it next to the mic.
Well, but that's good for
So you okay?
effects.
How many 2-foot diameter logs can you go through?
That can saw for a good 45 minutes, like
Wow.
non-stop before it
Okay.
runs out. But when it runs out, of course, it's like you get like
You
two
gotta wait an hour.
warnings. And it takes 2 hours to recharge. So ideally, you would need to have like 3 pairs of batteries for this. Oh, sorry, facing reality. I got carried away.
So what brand is yours? My brand is Greenworks.
Let's see. This is Oregon. Is it? Might be.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I need
I don't
a
know. Probably
electric.
Chinese.
Turin, what
Yeah.
did you? Oh, the last 2 days, the website. Diraj,
Yeah,
I
that
put the
was-
website in the comments.
Yeah, I just threw that together real quick. But I have another project. I'm trying to finish up, like the initial presentation of pretty quick. Get that out. I'll probably sharpen up, no pun intended, that website a bit. At least to navigate and
The first comment in the stream was like, "This is a sharp stream." Pun intended. Now you put the Hex logo off to the side. That's interesting.
Yeah, and there's a little bunch of little hexagons in the background. That's actually
Oh,
I
I see
just
that.
borrowed that from the other project I'm making, and it doesn't show up in mobile. But I'll probably change that background anyway, so that.
Have you already talked about these tips here?
No, let me.
Will you brush over them? Do you know what it says right here? Use a black marker on the knife to cut knife's cutting bevel, so you can gauge your progress.
Yeah, that's a trick. It's funny. I forget to do a lot. I don't generally do it, and sometimes I should.
It helps
But,
you. It helps you get the edge of the blade into the center of the material, because sometimes you could get carried away when you're like grinding off the excess material. If you go too deep, you're gonna have to compensate on the other side, which means that you're gonna lose on the width of the blade.
Yeah, and that's when I issue in or with that was what I used to do when I was really green, a scout. I'd end up, when you're hand sharpening with just you and a stone, it's really hard to keep a consistent angle, especially from side to side. It's hard to judge and make sure your angle going one way is the same coming back. That's why I like guided systems. They have a clamp, you put the blade in, and then an extension on both the top and the bottom that hold a rod, generally a stone on the end of that rod, so that it keeps a consistent angle going across the blade from both sides. And so with like paper steels, the nicer, more stainless steels, they take a lot longer And if you're careful, um, a lot of times what ends up happening is most people never actually make it to the edge, especially on something that's really hard to sharpen. They'll spend time, going at it, not wanting to go overboard, and they'll never make it to the edge. So if you put this on there, you can check, for sure when you're finally getting close to or gotten to the edge. And this tip I think is make sure you do
Sharpening
one edge.
one side at a time. Yeah. Raising a burr on the whole edge of one side before moving to the other.
Yeah, and that's when you're starting off. Like when the knife needs to be sharpened, even I will resharpen a knife just when it gets its first little chip in it sometimes, because certain things when I'm cutting, I'll use the whole blade through the cut, and if you run into a chip or some kind of snag, then it'll can throw off your whole line, your whole cutting line. Especially like things that are more important, skinning animals, or, cleaning animals, getting close to things you don't want to cut. You don't want to run into a bad spot. So when it needs a full, resharpen, and you're going to have to basically go pretty far into the metal to get rid of a chip or a bad roll. When you have to take a lot off, it's best to completely make a new bevel on one side till you have a burr, a noticeable burr. You can usually feel it with your fingernail on the other side. And then you switch and do it till you get the burr on the first side. And then you're ready to start refining, using finer grit stones or paper or rods. And then you start balancing. You do the same amount back and forth. So you may do 6, 8, 10 strokes on one side, then you do 6, 8, 10 strokes on the other side. And you work that down until it's just 1 and 1, back and forth. And if you're like a chef or somebody that's constantly trying to maintain that perfect edge, if you're not putting a new bevel on and you're just maintaining, then you always just keep it balanced, back and forth, one side, other side, one side, other side. And then inevitably you'll be left with a tiny little burr. And this is the second problem that a lot of newcomers to sharpening or trying to do really good sharpening run into. And that's that final burr needs to be knocked off. When you sharpen one way, you're pushing over the metal and putting the burr back and forth one side or the other. Until that burr basically gets smaller and smaller, but it's still there. So eventually, you need to knock that off. And there's different ways to go about doing that. I generally just use a strop. So that's basically the same motion as the sharpening, only backwards. And I usually use traditional leather with some kind of stropping abrasive, meant for it on the leather. If you're in the field and need to do something quick, I've used lots of things to strop, like the same metal sharpening rods you might have in the kitchen, where you go against the blade to sharpen. You can do the same thing backwards against any hard steel, or the edge of the glass of your car window, or the bottom of a coffee mug, the ceramic on a coffee mug. And it really well on like high carbon steel or something that's not tremendously hard. If you're using higher end knives, you generally don't have to do that like to maintain. A higher end super steel type knife like this one. This is I only have one like this because I only need one. But this is a knife. I gotta block my face. Anyway, it's S90V. It's very hard and very hard to sharpen, but it also holds an edge for a long, long time. So it'll like a buck stainless steel, like the 420 HC, is a good all around kind of middle of the road steel, but it won't make it through one deer. Not for me. It won't make it through a quarter of a deer without being sharp the way I want it sharp. I especially working animals, I like them razor sharp. So, and then I choke up usually, and a lot of times I'm only using, that much of the blade. I have an even smaller blade that I got through 6 deer with it in one season, one sharpening, and it before I started to notice where it was really slowing down. But you can ruin a blade when you're sharpening it pretty easily. And if it's an expensive blade, something you care about, then, you really want to be careful. So I would buy a guided system, use diamonds. But then like that tip says, go middle of the road speed. You don't want to go too slow. You can end up getting off your angle even with the guided system. And if you're not paying, like if you're sitting there watching a movie or something and you're just doing one side and not paying close attention, you could think that you're following a bevel and be slowly, getting off. So you want to pay attention. You want to, not try and go too fast, take off too much metal at once. But also, like I said, not too slow. You should be, feeling results. You don't. It can take hours to get a perfect edge on a really high-end super steel, but it shouldn't. You can wear out your diamonds if you press too hard. So same thing with that. Not too light, not too hard when you're pressing. And that's pretty much with any kind of stone or system.
So what is the definition of a strop? And can it be out of multiple materials?
Oh yeah, I mean, you can use things to strop like as the verb, but then I think the noun would pretty much be really only leather. It's pretty much the only thing I've ever seen sold commercially as a strop. I mean, you have the classic, iconic, barber with the leather belt,
Yeah,
for
I got one of those.
strop. Yeah, and then the
Is
cardboard actually,
Go ahead.
and skin, and it's funny on that. This is one of the big debates on Bushcraft USA. Always going around about it. It's like the 2 weeks thing, but because it definitely works, but it definitely it's one of those things. I don't know if there's as much of an exact science to stropping. So, people like, there's a guy, who swears all he needs is his arm, and his skin is abrasive enough, and people, don't believe it. But I've seen it. I've stropped and tried it, stropping on my own skin, and maybe seen a result. It's really reserved for the final finishing touches for a razor sharp edge, and it's not always completely necessary. And sometimes a grittier edge is actually handy depending on what you're cutting. If your edge is so super smooth, it can slide right over things, where a little bit of grit is going to help it slide into, actually.
Very interesting.
Rope is actually,
I didn't hear what you said. Go real fast.
natural fiber actually one is where a slick blade will just slide over it, where a grittier, final, if you can be sharp but be gritty, as long as the bevel is even, and all the way to the edge, it can be a gritty edge and still be sharp, like a saw, so there are reasons to have, depending on what you're cutting, to have it either perfectly smooth or not. So it's all preference. All of this is all preference. I like with fixed blade knives, some guys like a Scandi, they swear it's the best, the Scandi grind, where it's just flat all the way to and thick all the way to like a real pointy grind. I like more of a flat
11
grind,
degrees.
grind.
Maybe
Yeah.
7 if you're really picky, but somewhere between 7 and 11 degrees. That's pretty good, isn't it? I think industry is something like 14, but that's to spare like the grinding wheels on the machines that do it. So the machines do them on a few degrees wider than what is optimal, just to spare the machines. I don't know. That might actually have changed now with the diamond coated wheels, which pretty much last.
I think
forever.
that's I think that those high of a degree are probably for really thin kitchen blades, maybe, or razors. Because like the Lansky system I use, or what most people talk about, like with hunting or outdoor knives, is utility knives is 20 or 25 degrees. Like the Lansky guided system I have has 20 for the widest, 20, and 15 or 17. Just you don't want to go much thinner than 17 if you want the edge to hold up. I have one though, a butcher's knife that's even sharper than that. It's probably getting close to 12 degrees per side.
Yeah.
But it's
those are sharp.
Yeah. I mean, it'll yeah. It's you can easily go through a hand.
It'll cut Davin's nuts off if he tries to shave his sack with it.
Don't talk about my nuts.
Hey, do you wanna quickly
can't hit a bone.
Do you wanna quickly talk about something else before we wrap it up? I know.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up.
Already up to an hour. I wanted to address the Barnsley Football Club fans a bit, if you don't mind.
Fuck yeah, do it.
Like because I've noticed that they've been trying to cancel us.
Yeah, you want one of the...
Okay, thanks. So to the Barnsley Football Club fans, I just want to say that no matter how much your feelings are hurt on whatever one of the Hexicans has said, there's nothing we can do about it. There's no office of Hex where you can complain. There's nobody to pick up the phone. There's no one to hear you scream and complain. So it's just you. I'm sorry. Hex takes all comers. We accept all opinions because we have to. The code is unstoppable. It's immutable, and it's what cryptos are meant to be. So you're just gonna have to decide whether you want the money with no strings attached, or do you want to bitch about a fucking logo? It's up to you guys.
Beautiful. If anybody wants to figure out what's going on, join Twitter. Be a part of that portion of our social media outreach. Go into all of these social medias, like especially the ones where there aren't as many Hexicans. You can start being a pioneer in those spaces. So I've got a few ideas, but one thing that we're lacking a bit is TikTok videos or YouTube Shorts, and I know that Finbear has recently been releasing maybe like 2 YouTube Shorts per week on average.
No, one a day. I've released one a day. My channel views are up like 900% from what they usually are. I'm getting like 2,000 views a day.
because he's trying something new. He's
Yeah.
reaching more eyes.
Sharing
And then
like
also,
silly videos with catchy headers. That's it.
yeah, just silly stuff, things that appeal to the eye, so that they won't continue to swipe up. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. That makes it to where the algorithm interacts with us more. So on this channel, as well as other channels, I know that everybody that's typically here is already used to Hexicans. So we've already subscribed to all the Hexicans, but consider this little bit of starting something new. You'll find that, there are reasons why people gravitate to these different types of social medias. You'll find out what makes people tick. Like, I've really been spending a lot of time in Twitter Spaces as opposed to the voice chat in Telegram. I know
You've
that the
been
voice
really
chat,
duking it out over there.
and it's been a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
like, I know that
It has, yeah. And your timing, even though it's been the probably middle of the night for you, it's been spot on for me. I've always been just about to do something, but you guys are on, and I can postpone it for a couple of hours.
and
And
another yeah,
I've
go
been
ahead.
doing, I've been making like firewood like nobody's business. I still found like 10 logs in my backyard, in like covered in like
So you're finding things
yeah,
that you had forgotten
lum,
about or
yeah,
left
the
behind?
lumberjacks just cut the trunks up and left them there at the edge of the property. I sort of forgot about them, and then all the nettles and grass grew around it, and I was like tumbling through there, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" So I found like 10 logs or something, 2 meters long each one of them. So that's quite a few cubic yards of firewood that I've made
Yeah.
over the past week.
So is that thing that you're whittling down, is that ending up being a stool, or is it going to be kindling?
More than likely, it's gonna become some kind of a bar stool type of a thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I continued beating it today, and there's some foam coming out of it. We'll see what it looks like when I'm done. I'd actually need like a different kind of an axe, an adze, to
Mm.
finish it. That would be perfect for the
That's one of the
inside
things.
edge.
Yeah, I want to make. I'm really, like I said, big on axes. Actually, tomahawks now are kind of my thing. I like a lot because the versatility of being able to remove the handle so easily, or even like on a, for a backpacking trip, if you were really trying to reduce weight but wanted to take an axe, you can take a tomahawk, leave the handle at home. It's a good actual amount of weight, that adds up, that you can just leave and then fashion your own handle in the woods. So looking at probably maybe modifying some axes and tomahawks. Just
I love the hair, man.
You boys like Hexico?
We got a special guest. But I want to say, in Twitter Spaces, I recognize like people in our chat right here, like Hex Siren, Facing Reality. I saw Trap Gravity in here earlier. Diraj is in there every once in a while. And then TB Bishop. So we are integrating. And then also I wanted to say that something new that I've been trying is I've been using this software, this StreamYard software, to record in a new way. Say like somebody releases a YouTube video, then I'll put that YouTube video as a share screen, and then I'll voice over the top of that. So it's just a new way of generating content. And then also I'll go onto Twitter Spaces. I'll put my computer in Twitter Spaces. It'll be able to hear everything. And then maybe I host people here on StreamYard while we talk about what's happening in Twitter Spaces in a different space, in a different place. So just like these are just ideas of outreach that I just wanted to pass on to you guys. What do you say, McCormick? McCormack? Oh, he's got bad reception, huh? I'm gonna put him full
Just
screen.
like Peter, he takes off when you talk to him.
He should be doing a handstand on the mic and calling Richard a dick or something.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a quick clue for everybody. If you're sharing short videos, you don't want to make spicy headlines, because then you don't get boosted by the algo. My most recent short, I had a little bit of a spicy, ramblings about the banks and interest and whatever, and it's got 16 views. The one before it, the one before it was just pictures of like apes and gorilla emojis, and it has 1,600 views in 1 day longer time. So it's clearly the algorithm is sniffing out what you're writing into the comments and descriptions of the videos and stuff like that.
Hey, maybe you should change your language on your YouTube settings to English.
I think I think I have, but I'm gonna look.
I just feel like every time I type in Finbear to YouTube, you're not on there. Like it takes.
Yeah, and it's not my channel name. My channel name is different. I still haven't figured out where to change it.
Why do we have two McCormicks?
I cloned myself.
It's a fork of the previous evil McCormick.
No, it's one of those time. No, it's a, what is it? Glitch. It's a matrix glitch.
Yeah.
All right, Finbear, what are we looking at?
So check it out. The one that says how it feels. The one to
I don't
the
see it.
top left.
Top left.
Not that one. One to the right from there.
Oh, I see.
That has 1.6.
Wow, that was impressive.
So that one has 1,600 views.
Where'd you get the
Yeah,
video?
1,600.
Yeah, from Telegram. From the group Hexo set up on Telegram.
Oh, his TikTok.
Yeah. Then the one next to it, to the left of it, I posted that 10 hours ago, and it has 15 views.
Like, Richard, oh my God, what's happening? You look at the chart, and you're like, every chart I show shows you all the dips. And this is what it normally does. So dips are an opportunity for buyers to get better prices, and they're an opportunity for people to buy tops and sell bottoms and give their money to people who bought bottoms and sold tops. It's in the game. It's a feature, not a bug. So for the people that are buying, enjoy the dip. For people that bought the top, chill. Every dip opportunity so far has made new all-time highs. So everything's going to plan. Nothing too out of the ordinary. It's fun.
So it's because you talked about markets. You talked about financial advice.
Yeah, something like that. In the description of the video, there's I don't know. I think I mentioned the banks.
Okay. So these are shorts. That little symbol in the bottom right corner of it means that
So
it'll come up in a different way on people's cell phone.
Yeah, in the automatic feed, in the shorts feed. So if you just start watching one short, it keeps just adding them on, and it really pushes new users into your channel. I've had over 90% viewers who've never been on my channel before. Which is, nobody's been on my channel. I got like 180 subscribers or something, so most of the world is not on my channel.
I just realized I didn't show this. I had it handy.
So that's the one we saw in the pictures with the hazelnut. What was the walnut tree?
Yeah. Yeah, it behaved pretty much like 10, but heat treated just like I was mid. Sometimes you have to do multiple heat treats. I've tried to beat it up pretty good. Nothing loosened up, no bends or warps.
So
No
do you
chips.
take that out in the field with you? Like, what do you use that on?
Yeah, this is actually was built intentionally for.
That's a shopping
Yo.
knife.
I cut price tags with
You
that.
take it out shopping.
You've heard of poppy.
Actually, yeah, I think here you could get away with carrying it.
When you go sealing for clubs.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
This this is it's long, really.
I'm thinking
for chopping,
I'm
for
thinking
weight.
like disputes over where the fence is between you and your neighbor. You want to have something like that just hanging off the belt. Don't hold it in your hand, but that's like
I did
you know
have
what
one
they
of
say,
those.
like talk softly but carry a big stick.
No, not if you're Hexagon. It's walk softly but carry a big stake.
So true.
So,
Yeah.
the reason why this group was created was for land and body rejuvenation. And I found, let's see, Finbear posted a video that had Bill Mollison in it. And I wanted to share this clip because we're holding the baton right now.
If any other individual does their duty as well, we'll have the whole earth covered. And I have students of whom I'm very proud, and to whom I'm very grateful, because they'll finish the job.
He's dead and gone now. We are holding the baton. We are supposed to make things happen. Just wanted to pass that on. I'll probably pass it on every time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hex on Air is calling out Naga tribe. You know, I talked to that guy in person a few times, and I know that he's interested in acquiring like 300 acres in Georgia. So everybody keep your ear out for that. Nagabo, he chooses what groups he wants to interact with, so we don't have any interaction with him. But I think that he's got his mind in the right place whenever we're talking about intentional communities. You know, all of us are thinking different things for intentional communities. If you want to be a part of that discussion, go to t.me/hexfoodies. That's the Telegram group, and then go to the top pinned messages. That's where we're talking about different types of governance.
I shared a picture that I think you should share with the stream, because it depicts the life of a OG Hexagon.
Oh, okay.
So there we see that's Big
Big
Pep
Pep
there.
party.
Yeah, he's having a house party with some of his mates
Some of his cousins.
on Skull Island. So like I said before, if there ever is a Hexico, I'm gonna be damn sure to live next door to Big Pep. Thank you, everybody.
Cool.
Be here
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is he at?
Miami?
I hope
Where?
that was home.
Florida.
I sure got a homely feeling just out of the picture.
In the background,
Yeah,
it looks
Definitely
like
need it.
he's got the same sort of like patio screening that a lot of people in Florida have.
Yeah.
We definitely need a Hexaco.
Doxed.
I think Hexaco has to be decentralized, right? I mean, everybody has an idea of where they want it, so there's just going to have to be multiples and cooperating somehow or another, but definitely one on a beach somewhere, because I need some beach time, for sure.
Yeah. And underground tunnels, of course.
Between them all, that would be,
Yeah,
that would be
why not? Like, yeah. We could have
we
like,
can do it.
trains that travel in a vacuum tube or some stupid.
We'll just buy
shit
out
like that.
all of Elon's stuff. Nope,
Yeah.
sorry, you can't have these toys anymore. They're ours. Starlink and
Cool.
all of his tunnels.
All right, Peter, you got anything stupid to say to sign us off?
Finbear was just talking about the underground tunnels and tube things that you could just shoot off to every different Hexaco thing. I love all that Tartaria advanced technology stuff getting us from point A to point B quicker than we've ever known to be possible.
If you don't dream it, it won't happen, right?
Turin, you did awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your skill.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I love great connecting with you guys and building some content.
We're going to shut her down.
All right. Cheers. Ladies, guys.
All right, guys.
Order some food? Yeah, I'm hungry, man.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ những video hấp dẫn.